Joining us now with insight into the DOJ's thinking is former acting attorney general and U.S. attorney Matt Whitaker. Matt, always good to see you. The Department of Justice has been pushing back on the demands of the affidavit becoming public, saying that doing so would serve as a roadmap to the government's ongoing investigation that would provide specific details about its direction and compromising future steps in the investigation, saying that it's the affidavit's secret and would reveal too much. So walk us through what is likely in that affidavit, and if that really holds water.
Yeah, well, hello, Sean and Lindsay. It's good to be with you today. What's in this affidavit is very explicit evidence that they have discovered as part of their investigation. Witness names, testimony, through documents, and really kind of what they expected to find at Mar-a-Lago and what crimes that evidence would support. So it is 10, 15, 20 pages long, and these affidavits are very complete. Obviously they're written for a judge to find probable cause, and so they're going to have more, not less, information. And if I'm at the Department of Justice today, I'm wondering how I can minimize, the sharing of this information.
Okay, so Reinhart gave them a week to look at this. We've seen how active of a role Attorney General Merrick Garland has played. He came out last week and said he personally approved of this warrant for the raid. So how involved is he in this redaction process?
I wouldn't imagine the Attorney General is very involved. He'll probably be briefed on the front end as to what they hope to minimize and redact. And then obviously before they file it, he might be consulted just to make sure he's comfortable with the line that they draw on the redaction. But, obviously the decision that's going to have to be made by these prosecutors is they need to redact enough so that, the confidentiality and the secrecy of this procedure and this document is kept and maintained, but please the judge at the same time. That's going to be very hard for them to do.
So does the judge have access to everything? In other words, are they redacting it and then handing it to the judge and him saying, well, what's behind here? Or has he seen the whole thing and then they shade it out? So he goes, I know what's under that. There's no reason you should have covered that up.
Yeah, Sean, obviously this affidavit was part of the original search warrant that he signed. And so, it's sealed, but it's still part of the court record. So he has the unredacted version, and he's going to be able to engage in that dialogue. Now, the interesting thing is, this is a adversarial process, and so the press is on the one side, the government's on the other, and the question is that are they going to be able to negotiate over what is or isn't redacted? And there could be some things to learn at the next hearing as they argue about the redactions. And I can't imagine the judge would have a ex parte hearing with just the government to talk about the redactions.
Right.
Okay, I do want to switch gears a little bit with you because Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg pleaded guilty to 15 tax fraud felonies earlier today. And just the other day, we heard Attorney General Merrick Garland say that the DOJ was going to administer justice without fear or without favor. If you're going to go after Weisselberg for not paying taxes, from receiving free gifts, free cars, if that is the threshold that they are setting, I mean, I can only imagine there are a lot more people in New York City who have exceeded that threshold. I mean, is the DOJ going after them now, or does this show that this is a vendetta, a political winch hunt per se?
Well, in this case, the Weisselberg case, that is a state of New York proceeding. And so I don't know how much coordination they're doing with the federal government. But you're right. I mean, the question is while nobody is above the law, we cannot have, certain people just because of their affiliation with Trump that are prosecuted and others that do the same behavior and aren't prosecuted. I mean, Weisselberg, obviously, he owned what he did wrong. He didn't pay taxes on certain fringe benefits he received, and he should have. That obviously doesn't reflect anything on Donald Trump. Donald Trump had nothing to do with his decision to not pay taxes on those benefits. And so I think actually that case, while, the press likes to make it look like the drumbeat of the walls closing in, Sean, you remember that familiar refrain from our friends at CNN and MSNBC. I just don't think this case ultimately has really anything to do with the broader case we're looking at in West Palm Beach and in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I think Lindsay's point is strong, which is if you're going after people for taking gifts in New York City and not reporting them on their income, the line is pretty long. I don't recall too many other people in New York getting a ton of coverage for getting prosecuted on this. And I agree with you. That doesn't mean that you're excusing the behavior. But Letitia James and the New York State Attorney General doesn't seem to be going after a ton of people for this.
No, and Lindsay's absolutely right. I didn't mean to suggest that it was not a legitimate point. I just think that cases, they need to apply the law evenly.
Exactly. Matt Whitaker, always appreciate your insight. Thank you.
All right, thank you both.
You bet. All right.